Hi, I'm Dick Termes. Today we're going to subtract cubes from cubes. And I want you to look at these photographs first because they really show this very well. Windows and doors are a perfect example. There are examples everywhere. As you can see, knowing how to subtract a cube from a cube is essential when drawing because there are so many things around us that have cubes subtracted from cubes. The first thing you must remember when removing cubes is to use the 3 sets of parallel lines. It can become very complicated looking, but if you keep your head organized to the parallel lines, it just isn't that hard. We're going to cut holes in the cube that almost pulverize it, but it is still only 3 sets of parallel lines. We have a hole within a hole there. Corners and the sides can also be removed. Doorways and windows are really going to rely on you understanding this. There is no end of how far you can go with this. This is a whole composition within itself. I hope you enjoyed the video and the pictures that helped to show subtraction of cubes from cubes. I want to show you a few ideas, a little bit more detail to it than what the video showed. And I hope you get your tablet out and your pencil. I want you to be drawing along with us. I'm going to start with just a basic cube and chop cubical holes out of it. So here's the basis of a cube that we've drawn quite a few times, projecting back in space, like so, all the same distance back. So when we cut them off, they run parallel to these 2 lines, and when you cut this one off from this corner, it runs parallel to these 2 lines. All right, so we got a nice cube there to start with. And now we're going to cut a cube out of this. So on this particular plane, you have to follow the edges, what they're doing, and always have your hole look like the big shape that it's on. Now, if this is like windows and doors too. So you have to, this is how you would do windows and doors. So then you go back in space. That's the difference in this. Instead of it coming out at you when we were doing the additive, it's going back in space. So it's actually the lines have to go back in this way. And they're now this is a number 3 line. And being you're up above the cube looking down at it, you can't see any of that underneath. So all you're going to see is this edge here, just like this side. There's going to be another plane back in here. And the bottom of it's going to run off. So this is the only thing you'd see, and you'd have a hole in that cube from this side. If you want to cut a hole in the top, all right, you just copy the lines from the top. I'm copying that line and this line here and chopping a hole in there. This line is like this line's like this, when they're both the same, and these are going the other way. Now, being you're looking down, you're going to actually see the same plane as this back here, but you need a line that comes down, and I'm going to just have it go in about that far, and then it would come across like this. So this plane here is the same plane as this. It's the same, it's going the same direction in space. This plane here is the same as this plane, just to kind of get your heads straight on that a little bit. Okay, one more side. I'm going to just I'll put two holes in this. One here. And notice that this shape looks just like this shape. It's just smaller. And I'm going to put one more down here. I'll let it go all the way to the floor and let it be like a door. Okay? And it also echoes this shape. It has to fit. Each one of these holes have to look like they belong on that wall that they're on. And this you'd cut across like this. I maybe won't have it go quite so far. Have it come to about there and cut across. This one would come back in space like this. And these are these should be coming straight across. I'm a little bit off here. Straight across like this, just like these lines. This one, I did okay, yeah. And then come down like this, and you'd have a little doorway. Now, in actuality, you'd erase this line too, because that would now be the same plane inside here as out here. As we know, if it's a change of plane, you create a line, but in this case, there wouldn't be a line. So there's an example of a hole on 3 different sides of a cube. Another way to, there's lots of other places to put holes. We're going to try another hole here, and with another cube. That one is probably the most fundamental way that you do it, but this is another way to do it. You can chop holes out of the corners. Okay, so we're going back in space again. This is a little bit more complicated, so you want to just really play with this a little bit. So we have the basic cube. Now if we want to chop a hole, a cube, take a little cube right out of that corner, you have to first have the cuts. This line runs like this one. This line runs like that one. This comes down like this line or this line. Cuts across just like this line. Down and back in space like that line. Now we're going to remove that cube out of there. And it leaves a hole, but there's some lines that have to be drawn in here. This one, and that one would make the hole in there. This is one of those cubes that has a weird optical illusion. It almost looks like it could be a cube or it could be a hole, but I'm thinking if we did this, this would help. If we colored this in red here, I won't color the whole thing, and we colored that plane in red, then it would actually help it make sense so it didn't turn into an optical illusion on you. I think you can see that it can be inward or outward unless you do a little bit of extra stuff to it. Okay, so that's one corner. Let's chop a corner out of this little corner here. I'm going to go from here and across. See how that's running parallel to this. And then back up here, it's running like these lines, cutting across like this line or that line. All right, and then we take that cube away and then try and figure out what lines would be left. There'd be a line coming back here, like this line, going back in space. This would come straight down, and this would cut across. So you'd have, that's a little corner removed there. Let's remove a big one from here. Okay, it's going to come like that, which echoes this shape, goes back in space. Now we're dealing with this shape, so that's parallel to this line, straight down, like so. And let's just remove this cube now. Get rid of these lines. All right, and then what you'd see is the back side of this. It's going to go, it's going to cut across like this and back in space like that. Okay, so this is straight across, and then there'd be a corner there. All right, you can kind of see now we're echoing this side again. This is the same plane. This is the same plane as this. So if we get our colors out again, let's just color this in a little bit more here. If this were all colored red, this would be a red plane also. Okay, just like that one is. So we have those, and this would be a red plane also back here. So sometimes when you do this, to color it in, just to keep your head straight on it, really helps. A couple more corners. This is a nice easy one. We'll chop like this and across like that. That's what that would look like. And you wouldn't see anything else because it's all back around the corner. If you chop out of this corner, all right, we come down like this and across like that. Get rid of the cube. These are all little cubes we're subtracting from it. You end up with that notch. Well, that doesn't look right until you add this line down and this line across. And then you get a corner out of that. And you can do that with all of the different cubes. And if you do them all consistently, you end up with like a cross kind of guy that runs through this whole thing. You can kind of see it here. If I had kept them all big and had them like a third of the way cut in, you can have very precise forms out of it. One more guy I want you to try. We're going to cut out of the center of the cube. All right, let's see here. Let's get the cube going again. And we're going to chop out of the center of this. All right. So I want to take a cube right out of the middle of this, out of the middle of that. And it's in a similar way. You have to chop, and your choppings that you do when you cut into this have to run parallel again. See how that looks just like this as a small little object? And this cut out down here looks just like this. And you end up, okay, now I take the cube away from there. And you have one line that needs to make it look correct. This comes straight down, this comes across, and this goes this way. So now it really does look pretty much like it's supposed to there. All right, and then we're going to cut one out of the center of this. I'm going to run it back. This shape is copying this shape again. Okay, and then the front of this has to copy this shape, like so. All right, and then take away that line. That's where your eraser comes in. You got a nice hole there, but it doesn't look quite right till you add this line straight down and this line back in like this. Now this little plane right here is the same plane as that, is the same plane as this. And let me do just a little bit of coloring on that, because I think that really helps. If you see, this is red. When I do my paintings on spheres and stuff, and I draw rooms, lots of rooms in it, a lot of times I'll keep the same planes, and there's actually 6 planes on a cube. Let's see, we got 1, 2 there. I'm going to do a little green here on this side. Oh yeah, I need one more. I see another spot here. Green here, and green over here is the same plane. It may be back in space, but it's still the same plane. And this is the same thing here. This is the green side here. All of this is green also. It's the same plane, okay? All the way through there. And this other one, I've forgotten, this is also a red plane here. All of this is the same plane as that is back in space and that is back in space. And so, okay, because a couple of these are pretty simple. If you cut a hole out of here, like that, and erase that line, and it just comes back in space like this line, to an up and down back there, to a straight across one. So this line is like that line. This line is 2, is like 2. And this is the number 3, like all of these that are going back in space. So now you have a notch out of the middle. Looks like a door, kind of. But if you look at architecture, you're actually going to see architects play off of this to get a variety in their buildings that they build. They all want something very unique, you know. So you have to know different ways to chop up cubes in order to do that, because most of their buildings are cubes, and so it works pretty good. I'm going to try a couple of realistic guys and see if you can identify what they are. The first one that I'm going to do is, well, I won't tell you. I'll just see if you can spot it. All right, I'm going to start like this. Okay, and go back in space quite a ways. About to there, I'd say. This going back in space, straight up and down. Move that line and this line. Okay, so there's our beginning. And then we're going to add, I'm going to come this, well, let's see. All right, I'm going to do some parallel lines like this. They're parallel to these lines, like so. And then I'm going to crisscross that with lines going the other direction, like so. All right, and then I'm going to add on the front of this a little handle that comes off of this that you can pull. Oh, I'm missing one point. The depth lines that are going down in. All right, there should be little depth lines on each one of these junctions. And I think you have an idea of what I'm drawing, I hope. And does it look kind of like an ice cube tray? I could draw the whole refrigerator there. Oh, there should be some back in here too, lines that are coming down. And sometimes in drawing, you don't have to draw all those details. Sometimes you can leave a few out, and the mind of whoever's looking at it will add the lines in. We just do that. So sometimes you don't have to actually draw everything. Okay, and I want to try one other guy here, because hopefully you all saw what I was doing, and I hope you don't forget to pause your image so you can catch up with some of this stuff. So one other thing I want to have you look at is this, the basic table, because a lot of times we don't think of this as subtraction, but it really is. There's the front of the table, and like I say, I always like to draw it and subtract to get to a lot of things. And a table actually works best to draw it just like I'm doing it. In the end, you can add all kinds of details to it, but there's the basis of it. And well, most tables have legs. So I'm going to cut this out, cross like that. And I'm going to come across over here and cut that out, like so. I'm going to do a little erasing here. And it kind of frees the table. This is kind of like carving Mount Rushmore. You have to take away everything. If you take the right stuff away, you end up with Mount Rushmore. Take the right stuff away from a cube, you end up with Mount Table or something. No, just a table. Yeah. Okay, so you can see this has a full dimension of a cube leg. This one doesn't. We have to add a little bit more to it. We need this number 3 line going back in space and coming down with this line to add a leg to it. This one needs to go back across this way like these lines do and come down, and you have 3 legs. Now how do you get that? How do you figure out where that third one is? Well, one of the ways is to start way up here and figure out what this would look like. I'm going to just sketch it in up here, what that leg would look like if it hit. And then if you project down from there, I'll erase all of this later. That's where it would appear. Okay, to be accurate, it would appear there. And then you can run this across here to know where that leg is. You can run this line across here to know where that ends up. So that gives you see how that comes across, this comes across here, and it tells you where that back leg actually should be. And then come back here and erase all of this. And you're back to a basic table. And then you, of course, would erase all these projection lines you want to get rid of too. That one, and you end up with a basic table. If you, tables also come in all kinds of shapes. This might be rounded off on the corners. I mean, you can come back and add a whole bunch of stuff to that to make it a very special type of table. I think in order to really make it look table-ish, you need something on the table. I'm going to put my breakfast food on here. Put a little bowl, and it's going to have a little rim around it, and it's full of Wheaties or something in there. Need a little spoon over here, spoon on the side, and maybe a cup of coffee. And we'll be drawing all of this stuff in the future here, so you can have a little cup of coffee too. A little cup, a little handle there, and steam coming out of it, like that. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed this. Thanks for watching. Keep your eye out for more videos in this series.